studios. This is After 9 with Scott and Kat.
Hey now!
Hello.
What's going on, Kat?
Oh, enjoying the sunshine while we can and okay temperatures while we can,
It's very consistent right now. 22 degrees, 22 degrees, 20 degrees, 19 degrees. Everything is good. I like it. Did you see the second moon yet, by the way?
No?
No?
I haven't really looked for it. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It's temporary too, so it's like I can't get too used to it anyway. And
Don't
then I'll
get
be
attached.
Like, where did the second moon go? And then next thing you know, you're sad.
Yeah. Is it affecting the tides at all? I mean, the regular moon has a huge impact on the tides. Does the second one pull the water back out away from shore? I don't know how it works, but
Yeah, one's pushing, one's pulling.
yeah,
they don't work together.
messed up. If it does pull water out, it'd be great if it could go to North Carolina. That would be helpful. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about in this episode of After 9. I had an osteopath appointment yesterday, and I went in at 12:30. I came out at 1:15, 45 minutes, and World War III had started. So we'll talk about what's going on there. We're going to talk about Diddy because there is now 120 accusers accusing him of sexual misconduct. We're going to hear from the lawyer representing these 120 people, and this guy's good, by the way.
I like this guy already. I like that Busby character.
I'm going to play you some highlights from last night because I lied. I said I wasn't going to watch the debate.
Oh.
I tuned in for a few minutes.
Are there highlights?
It was, Kat, let me tell you, one of the most refreshing things I've seen in a long time. Two adults that stood up there and treated each other with mutual respect and discussed policy. No name calling, no shouting, nothing. It was really, really well done.
They save that for the presidents.
I guess so, because the presidential debates are gross. But the one last night was actually very, very good. And there's a couple of standout moments. We'll play a couple of them for you. But first off, let's get to the story that is breaking today. This is from briefing notes that were given to our new education minister here in Ontario, Jill Dunlop. They were given to her when she took over as education minister from Stephen Lecce. And now those briefing notes have been obtained through a Freedom of Information request by the Canadian press. The documents say many school boards are experiencing challenges recruiting and retaining enough qualified teachers, particularly in areas such as French and education, tech education to be specific. Some unions say it's time to rethink making Teachers College a one-year program instead of the two-year program that it currently is. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for the education minister says the government has cut timelines for processing applications, allowed second-year teacher candidates to work as supply teachers, among other measures, and now school boards and education unions need to do their part. They need to address teacher absenteeism. In other words, we're facing a massive teacher shortage that's really going to start to hit around 2027 because so many teachers are retiring and because enrollment is going way up because, as you know, our country has grown by millions in a very short amount of time. What are we going to do when we don't have enough teachers to staff all these schools?
This is a massive problem. That's why we definitely need to get on it and find out something that we can do. I know that not everything is a quick fix, but the things that are quick fixes, like eliminating a year of schooling, or I guess that would be half of the schooling. I'm not opposed to it. The best learning that we can do is hands-on, and I do believe that that's true in the classroom too. I'm sure it is. I'm sure for a lot of people when they're in school to be a teacher, it's one thing, but once they get in their placements and once they get to see and be and do, that's where they really figure it out. So I have no problem with them getting in there sooner rather than later if that helps the process along or helps people want to become a teacher.
I'm not going to pretend to understand how it works, but I'm really wondering, if you're a teacher, they used to be Teachers College was 1 year. About 10 years ago, they made it a 2-year program. And now I'm wondering, what the hell do you do for 2 years? Presumably, if you're going to be teaching math, for example. Well, they don't need to teach you math. If you're a math teacher, presumably you're pretty good at math. They just need to teach you how to teach math.
Yeah, teaching how to teach and curriculums and learning maybe, but don't they vary anyway? The curriculums vary. So if you graduated in Ontario, for example, but decided to move to BC, are you learning the same thing? I also don't know as much about the educational process for a teacher. So I would be curious to find that out. I don't know if there's more that they could do with education than that, but I trust those who have been through it. If they say this is something that we can do and we can I'm going to use the term get away with, but you know what I mean, then great.
What I don't want them to do is lower the bar and lower the standards.
No, not at all.
But we do need to find a solution here. And frankly, teaching used to be a very appealing job. And for a whole host of reasons, there's a lot of people who might otherwise have gone into education that don't want to do it now. Whether it's the workloads or the extracurriculars that you got to do, the money out of pocket.
Dealing with parents.
Dealing
is
with
the number one complaint I hear from my teacher friends, and I'm sure it's similar for you.
Exactly. Teachers have had enough of parents interfering the way they are in some cases, but that's another topic for another day on a case-by-case basis. Back to the problem here, we've got a lot of teachers retiring. We have more students coming through the system. That's a big problem. But I want to circle in on something that the education minister's spokesperson said. Now, school boards and unions need to address teacher absenteeism. This costs us a lot of money to constantly bring in supply teachers, but it's not just that some teachers wake up and say, I don't feel like it. That certainly happens. There's some people out there who are gaming the system. I hear about it all the time. Different scams and leaves and things like that. Some people are out there exploiting the fact that they've got a pretty good job when it comes to hours, salary, benefits, and all the other things.
And that's government run anything, though. You could probably put that in place of any job.
Yeah, you're absolutely
where it's
right.
Government, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people take advantage, and it's horrible that that happens. I wish there was a way to prevent it. I think that if the unions stop protecting people that are obviously gaming the system, and there are some of them out there that are doing that, if they figured out a way to rein that in, that would probably be great. But I'm going to suggest another practical common sense solution here that would solve some of this problem. We got to go to the 4-day work week in schools. And maybe you're thinking, no. Kid's not going to go to school 4 days a week. No. They should be in school 5 days a week. I agree with you. School should be 5 days a week. But that doesn't mean that the teachers all have to be there 5 days a week when they could do a 4. You know, if a teacher could get in all of their hours and complete all their duties and their coaching and all that sort of stuff that teachers do on a day-to-day basis, if they could get it done in 4 days, and then we bring in the other teachers to cover off the day that gets missed there, I don't see what the problem is. It would require a bit of a big reorganization. It would require some thoughtful planning.
And money. Don't forget, we have to figure out the money situation. If you're going down to 4 days a week, does that change your salary?
I wouldn't, no.
And if it's not, then where's the money coming from for those part-time teachers, let's say, who, or maybe they're not even necessarily part-time. Maybe they're full-time, but sometimes they're Monday, Tuesdays here, and then they're Wednesdays there, and then they're Thursdays, Fridays there to cover off,
It's pretty simple, yeah. Some teachers are going to work Monday to Thursday. Some are going to work Tuesday to Friday. But either way, kids will always have a teacher in there. How are we going to pay for it? There would be a heck of a lot less waste in the system if the teachers had a 4-day work week. I'll give you an example. Do you know how many times teachers have to miss class because they've got to go to an appointment or they've got to do whatever? They work traditional office hours. They're basically 9-to-5ers, whereas the rest of the world doesn't really work a 9-to-5 anymore. Some do, but many don't. If the teachers had that free extra day every week that they could schedule their doctor's appointments or their specialist appointments, if they could have that extra day to get done their errands, go and meet with their kids' teachers, and all the other things from life that are interfered with by traditional hours that teachers have, I think that would eliminate a lot of the need to bring in supply teachers for a random Wednesday afternoon because that was the only day you could get into the doctor.
Yeah.
I think a 4-day work week for the same salary and even the same number of teachers would probably go a long way. The problem is we need to get people to buy into this and wrap their mind around what that would look like. It's really not hard. We have some real smart people in working for the ministry. Why can't we just sit down and figure out a new homeroom schedule where you're with your main teacher 4 days a week, and then for the other day, maybe we all go on Rotary and you go to a different classroom and take science and math, and then you go to a different classroom for English and art and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of ways to do it, but I think we would have happier teachers. We would have teachers that are more interested in getting into education. And overall, we could cut out so much waste that this might even save money.
Yeah.
Going to a 4-day work week. What we also need here, though, and this goes back to the spokesperson for the education minister's point, is we need the unions and the school boards to get on board with this, i.e., it's a deal. We're going to move you to the 4-day work week. You're not going to lose any pay. That's one less day of commuting, one less day of stress, an extra day to do your own stuff or the work stuff that doesn't get done on school hours, like marking and report cards. You get an extra day off a week. But stop screwing around. No more booking these doctor's appointments at inconvenient times. You're going to try and schedule your non-job stuff on the day that you are off. Mm-hmm. And if people could buy into that, if we had that unspoken rule that you're not going to book a meeting with your kid's teacher at another school for when you're supposed to be working, you're going to do that on your day off, quote unquote, I think we'd be a lot better off.
Yeah, I mean, as long as, and not everyone's going to abide by it. Sure, there's still going to be people that call in sick because they have sick days. But if you change those requirements because they have that day off, sure. Another one I heard too was just from people who...
I would also cut the amount of sick days. Take them right down to 5.
Right, well, if you did this, of course,
Yeah.
you'd have to, because there's a little bit less of an excuse or need for the sick days as non-sick days we're talking, you know what I mean?
And there's a lot of people who consider those vacation days. Use up
Yeah.
your sick days by the
They
end of the
do.
year, and that's not right either. That's not what they're there for. That's meant to be an insurance policy if you get sick. It's not meant to be 10 extra days off.
Yeah, and to that point too, where people use it as a vacation day. I'm not even opposed to teachers having those vacation days available to them. Like right now as it is, like you can't take time off during the school year. You just can't, unless it's March break or Christmas, whatever. You can't. We know that there's summers off, and I understand that, even though a lot of teachers do end up doing work during the summer. But even adding the vacations. Hey, if you plan it in advance enough, and I know some teachers have been able to, but they have to go through quite the process, depending on the school board, to get that week off, for example, because their kid is getting married or whatever might be happening is happening in their life. And I'm not talking about needing it off for, funeral or for sad reasons. I'm talking about for the fun reasons too. There's a lot of teacher friends I know that's one of their that's another one of their issues with it is, no, I can't go, guys. It's in November. I can't go away for that trip. I can't do it. I'm a teacher. That is how it is. So
and that is the trade-off, though. That's always been the way the teacher deal works, is you get the summers
Correct.
off and you get the Christmas and the March break and all the other one, plus the PD days and such, but you can't take time off during the school year.
Correct. But that's why we're throwing around ideas. What could potentially help? If you felt like you were locked into a certain time only, that you could do things in a certain time that you couldn't, could it help? Maybe not as much as a 4-day work week could help people get into it, but that's really the key. It's not just about getting into it too, it's the amount of teachers who want out, because that's what I hear too, which makes me so upset. There's friends that I've had my entire life that are meant to be teachers. Like this is what they are meant to do. They love the kids, and it has zero to do with the kids. What can be done about the other shit that happens around that? About parents, about the way that they're treated, about the amount of kids in a classroom, which is supposed to fall on the government, but we all know that those slip through the cracks. And sometimes teachers are absolutely overwhelmed and overworked during the months that they are working. So I hear from a lot of my friends that it's like it's too much, and it's become to the point where between dealing with parents' expectations and dealing with classroom sizes, it's to the point where they're considering leaving. And these are people you don't want to leave. Trust me, these are good teachers who will be good educators and do have many years left in them that aren't sure if they can do it anymore. And what a shame that is. Nobody who wants to do this for a living should be leaving for stupid reasons, like other people being unrealistic and insane, like some of the parents are. They're not allowed to say it, but I can tell you, I know they deal with bullshit. I know they do.
I hear it all the time. It's frustrating. It really is. I really think the solution here is to move all the teachers to a 4-day work week. And we're going to compromise on a few things when we do that. But for the most part, it'll end up better for everybody. What I'd love to minimize is the disruption to the education. And there's still some parents who trust the system, who send their kids to school every day, wanting them to get educated. And it's a revolving door of different teachers. Today it's this person. And then, my teacher's all of a sudden off on a leave. And then we've got this long-term fill-in, but then they need a day off. And before you know it, they've seen 15 different teachers by Halloween, and that's not good either. We all know not as much gets done with a supply teacher as gets done with your main teacher. So they've got to find a way to create some consistency for students and parents, and they've got to make it work for teachers. I don't see another solution or anybody else trying to come up with one. Union blames the government blames the union. Let's just come up with a solution. Speaking of the province, by the way, a lot of people sent me a note yesterday. Apparently, Premier Ford did a news conference, and he was asked about our proposal Instead of building the tunnel under the 401, why don't you just buy back the 407? And the premier said, apparently, because I still haven't found this audio, apparently he said, yeah, that was one of the options we considered, but we're going to go with the tunnel. Could we know?
Did
Could
he
we
say
know
why?
This is what I want to know. Could we get a little more information about why? If you looked at it and you figured, it's going to cost $10 billion to buy the 407 and it's going to cost $8 billion to build the tunnel, great. But everything I've heard from people who actually bid on government contracts for construction projects is that this tunnel is going to cost closer to $50 or $100 billion, and buying back the 407 would be in and around $10 to $15 billion. That's the cheaper alternative, and it's a now solution, not 25 years from now when the tunnel is built. So I'll keep trying to track it down. I'm very curious to hear that process, but for now we've got to move on because one of my favorite topics lately is back in the news. I want to play for you the lawyer who is representing 120 complainants against Diddy.
The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward. Our team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us with people claiming to have been victimized by Sean Combs.
3,285 people called the lawyer interested, and they've whittled it down to 120 formal complaints that they're going to take to court. Wow. And that doesn't mean those other thousands of people that contacted the lawyer won't have their day in court. It just means their case is going to be a little harder to prove, and they're going to go with the 120 initial ones. I'm thinking if they whittled 3,500 down to 120, these 120 are pretty ironclad.
Yeah, and he says as well that he's definitely going to try to cooperate and work with the authorities who do have the same names he's probably looking in front of him. And I don't just mean individual names, but companies that are going to be outed. He says banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels, record labels, Bad Boy's an obvious one, but Universal, it is literally named in this.
One of the biggest record companies on the planet.
Epic is another one that was named and says a lot of famous people are caught up in it.
After vetting, we now represent 120 individuals who intend to bring civil claims in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs, as well as claims against many other individuals and entities that we will name as defendants as we file these individual cases.
Individual cases. They're filing 120 different cases instead of one massive class action.
And usually that means each case is going to be quite different and not all the same. They're not all going to be the same. He took me to this exact location. This is what happened. I was drugged. I was watched by this person. This is over spanning, I'm assuming, many years, although he doesn't specify that. But that probably means there's so many different stories and different people coming and going that it has to be individual cases.
Paper shuffle. Hang on.
And you should know, to the extent the clients feel comfortable, we also intend to make these individuals available to the authorities, specifically to the FBI. And you should also know a few of them have already been spoken to by the FBI. Now, before we discuss the nature of the claims and claimants themselves, let me comment on the large volume of calls we have received since our first announcement. Even before the indictment of Sean Combs, we had received a small volume of calls and had screened a handful of cases. After the indictment of Sean Combs and the announcement that we were pursuing these claims, the floodgates opened. People who wouldn't otherwise, for a variety of reasons, are now stepping forward to make their voices heard and to pursue justice. But no, most of these people are scared. They fear backlash in their communities. They fear backlash in their own families. They are afraid of retaliation from the perpetrators and their associates. They are rightly afraid for their own personal safety. I expect that through this process, many powerful people will be exposed. Many dirty secrets will be revealed. We know what we are potentially up against. And as is always the case in situations like this, when a celebrity is involved, people can be downright mean and nasty. You would be shocked at the length fans will go, no matter the evidence to the contrary, to defend celebrities they love. I mean, there's a reason for this word fans. They're fanatics. I've personally already been threatened multiple times on social media. And when I agreed to pursue this, I expected as much.
Imagine that. The lawyer who's trying to see that justice is done on behalf of victims is being threatened by people who apparently have such blinders on, they refuse to acknowledge that this person that they idolized for the last 20, 25 years is a certified POS.
Yeah. And thank goodness it's all going to be brought to light. I really hope it is, though. Like, lots of these names, he says are going to shock us, but something tells us there's some names that have been floating around for a while.
Some of them. And some of them, I'm hearing a lot lately. I don't know if it's just the way the internet algorithm works, but some really high-profile people are going to go down with this. And you know what? They should. If people were participating in this, absolutely fry them. There are 60 male and 60 female victims, one of them as young as 9 years old.
25 of them were underage, but one is 9? What's the deal with that? I hope this person is brave enough, and I know it's probably hard, so whatever. But tell everything. Spill it all. And everybody involved needs to be brought down.
The hotels that knew what was going on, the banks that bankrolled this whole operation, because I don't know how, but I'm told that these Diddy parties actually made a lot of money somehow. I don't think he was charging people to get into his home.
Yeah, and when it comes to those hotels, too, I mean, you think back to the video of Cassie, right, which we all know happened at a hotel, and we could even pinpoint the hotel. Did the person who had that tape, whoever that might be that released it, come forward? Because they obviously worked there. You don't get access to that without working there. He was charged out, he talked about it after the fact, but somebody had their hands on that for a while now, at least a few years, and did they tell the hotel? Was the hotel aware and ignored it because that's a big client? We can't say anything. That guy spends a lot of money with us.
Yeah.
That's where the bullshit lies. And to me, they all need to be called out.
If there were record companies involved, if there were, we know there were hotels involved. That's where some of these things happen. Everybody who allowed this to happen and didn't say anything, you're an accomplice. And there's no other way to look at it. This lawyer's name is Tony Busby. Part of the reason I'm really encouraged by him coming out yesterday and holding that news conference is I wasn't 100% confident that Diddy was going to see justice done to him. And it was the FBI that raided. The Department of Justice laid the indictment. But those are the same people that went after Epstein. And we still don't know a single thing about what Epstein is accused of.
Yeah, which is worrisome.
So I was a little afraid Diddy was going to be in the same boat. But when we have 120 victims all coming forward that want to tell their story, I don't know that the DOJ or the FBI can control that.
We need more people like Tony Busby. You know what I mean? Hopefully more people, as many people as possible, come forward.
Let's go to, where do I want to go here? Where do I want to go? This is a topic that sometimes comes up as a conspiracy theory. The Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, says her office says her recent comments about chemtrails doesn't mean she believes the U.S. government is spraying them in Alberta. Smith told a weekend United Conservative Party town hall she hasn't found any evidence chemtrails are being sprayed over Edmonton. But she said someone told her if it's happening, it's being done by the U.S. Department of Defense. A spokeswoman for the Premier was simply sharing what she has heard from Albertans, or she says that's what the Premier was reflecting, is what she hears from her citizens. Some people claim the streaks in the sky are actually chemicals purposely sprayed by unknown entities for nefarious purposes. I hear so much about chemtrails, and I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole, but basically what they're suggesting is when you see a plane flying in the sky, occasionally it's emitting a lot of white stuff from the back of it.
Yeah, I think we've all seen it, right?
There's an easy explanation for why in aviation terms, and I'm not an aviator professionally, so I can't really explain it to you, but they say it's a byproduct, it's a vapor, it's a this, it's a that. It doesn't happen with every plane. And some planes, you see them flying over and it sprays, and then it stops, and then it sprays again. Maybe spray is the wrong word. Maybe it is just a byproduct of flying.
It emits something.
Emission, yeah. Are they spraying chemicals down on us is what some people would like to know the answer to. And again, I haven't gone down this rabbit hole. I don't understand enough about the chemtrails, but I know that some people that believe that's a conspiracy theory are now suggesting that the Premier of Alberta is a nut for even bringing it up. But I've seen so much stuff in the last couple of years trying to shut down dissenting opinions that now I'm kind of interested. Now that she's brought it up, is there something going on? Last week, there was a whole bunch of people spamming Premier Doug Ford's X account asking about various chemtrails. They showed pictures in the sky of planes that would stop and start and stop and start, releasing or emissions is a good way. Your word is good. I don't know. I don't think the Premier Doug ever replied, but clearly the Premier of Alberta did. And if this is something that she's actually going to look into, I think that benefits us all.
Yeah, of course.
I would like her to come back out and say, listen, we've looked into this and there is no evidence that something is being sprayed on us, let alone evidence that it's being done by the U.S. government. There's no evidence of that. If somebody has evidence, bring it forward. But otherwise, let's put this rumor to bed. That's what I would like to see happen here. Or if somebody is spraying us, we have a right to know.
Of course we do. Yes, please, especially for those of us over a flight path.
You know, I live so close to the airport. It's crazy.
I do. Yeah. So I would like to know.
I really don't know what those are, though. And by the way, you don't need to spam me with all kinds of articles about chemtrails. If you're really into this shit, good for you. I don't know a lot about it, and frankly, I've got other things on my mind. I'm not too worried about the chemtrails right now, but if the Premier of Alberta is going to look into it, good. We'll wait and see what she comes back with. Last thing I want to do is I want to congratulate Senator J.D. Vance and who's this other guy? Governor Tim Walz.
Left a real good impression.
You know what, though?
The other guy.
And I know I said it myself yesterday. I wasn't planning on watching the VP debate. To me, it's not that interesting. To me, it's not really going to affect anything. If anything, it was just morbid curiosity to see who these guys are. I didn't know anything about Tim Walz or J.D. Vance before they were picked as the running mates for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
Which is probably what they want.
I think they did want that. So last night, these two went out and debated. And as someone who's a fan of debating, I love it. J.D. Vance, who is Trump's running mate, basically put on a masterclass for how you do it. And that's not to take anything away from Tim Walz. This is not a political piece here, everyone. I want to congratulate both of them for, if we had a debate between Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre, where they acted like adults, like Tim and JD did last night, we Canadians would be far better off. I did a whole podcast on this on Monday about how they think we're stupid because they call each other names that two kids running for student council wouldn't call each other.
But don't you think the difference is in the difference? They can afford to. When you're running as VP, there's a lot of people who don't even care. They're looking at the president. They're looking at everything else. You're kind of the last reason why they're voting for that party. There's less eyes on you. So I feel like you can afford to be more civil, less aggressive, maybe is another way to put it. I think that you can afford to, which is why those are probably a lot more civil because people don't care if they're like, I can't believe that Waltz or whatever didn't yell at a thing because they realize that you could you're literally taking a back seat in this role. That's what the role is. So you can take a bit of a back seat when it comes to debating, I think. It gives you a little more leeway anyway.
It was so calm. It was thoughtful. Americans got to hear two different perspectives, one from the left and one from the right on various issues, and they can make up their own mind. That's all people wanted. So let's give you just a little bit of last night's vice presidential debate.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug mules. And it is a disgrace and it has to stop. Look, I think what Tim said just doesn't pass the smell test. For 3 years, Kamala Harris went out bragging that she was going to undo Donald Trump's border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time. That you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says. But look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley.
Listen, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I will say that it's refreshing to hear somebody just say how they feel about an issue. And there's nothing wrong with how you feel about an issue. If you're pro-choice, good, be pro-choice. If you think the border sucks, the border sucks. You can debate it civilly. Kat, you and I talk about issues every single day. We're not yelling at each other. I'm not calling you sellout cat or comrade cat or any of these other stupid nicknames they give each other. It was two guys that are both from the Midwest and they care about their country and they debated. Unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to see a civil debate here in Canada between our current leadership because I don't think they're civil individuals. It's just too mean and it's too mean-spirited.
Yeah.
And we're never going to hear from Justin Trudeau why he thinks contraceptives should be free and tampons should be in the men's room. He's never going to explain to you why he did that. You're also not hearing anything at Pierre Poilievre. No policy at all. Apparently, we could be thrust into an election at any time, and we still don't know how he's going to do any of the things he says he's going to do. So we need more from our politicians, and I hope that we use last night's VP debate as the gold standard for decorum and respect in a debate.
Yeah. Don't know if we'll ever have it.
Oh, we won't. I know. It's
Probably
just a pipe dream.
ever.
The teachers will have a 4-day work week before those two speak civilly to
We
each
all
other.
will.
We all should. We all should. Is there anything else we got to cover here? No, I think we covered a sufficient amount here.
No, we're giving away some money on our show. Just so you guys know, in the mornings on Energy 95.3 and 91.5 The Beat. It's been fun. We play Cash Rally. It just started this week. We're starting fresh tomorrow, so we're not going to take one, but two people who could win some money, and you can double it the next day up to $200, up to $300, $400, $500 is what you can win with Cash Rally. So by all means, listen, would you? It's a text in to win first contest after 8 o'clock, and we have lots of fun too. There's a bunch of stuff happening this week. We're doing Justin Timberlake as well. I mean, ticket giveaways specifically.
What are you doing to him?
After
doing
9,
Justin Timberlake
after
this
9, we're doing Timberlake, and it's going to be great. It's going to rock our body.
I know what it was. We've banned a word on our radio show, just so y'all know.
Oh, this is so stupid.
Ferrero, the company behind Ferrero Rocher, suggested that we should actually be celebrating adult Halloween. And we still let the kids go door to door and knock and trick or treat, and you give them a chocolate bar or something. But adult Halloween would be where we basically treat each other, and we have.
I'm taking an Halloween myself.
I'm on one right fucking now. Adult Halloween would be for friends, colleagues, partners, and we buy higher end stuff like the stuff that Ferrero makes and give it to each other.
I mean, we kind of do that already if you think about it. Not necessarily Ferrero Rocher. That's very expensive. I think Ferrero Rocher came in a good angle here because they know you're not going to buy a bunch of Ferrero Rocher to give away to kids. It's too expensive. However, treat yourself is the bottom line here. So what they're suggesting is get the good shit for you and give the shitty shit to the kids.
We've been doing that for years.
Everybody does that. When my kids are done trick-or-treating, because they're still young enough where there's still older kids out. This year is going to be no different. They're going to come home. I'm going to sift through their stuff for all the, all the scary stuff that might be. But I'm also going to look at the garbage. And the garbage is going to go back in the bowl where we're going to give out to the other kids, and we're keeping the good stuff.
You can buy all the crappy candy you want, but everybody's just going to recycle it. When their kid comes home with a bag full of lollipops, bye. When they come home with candy corn or those caramels that are wrapped up in the orange Halloween packaging, bye.
Bye.
All that shit's going to go and right into your kid's bag. So if we all bought better candy to hand out, the problem is it's too expensive this year.
The adult to wean thing, by the way, like that's also some liquor for some people, right? I think when people do that with little booze for me, little candy for you.
Some people hand out airplane bottles or cans of beer for the parents that are walking around with their kids.
I know, I love that.
I like the top-up stations where they've made basically like a giant thermos full of spiked hot chocolate, and they're just topping people up as they go by.
Oh, look at that.
There's so many different ways you can do it, but please, let's ensure that the adults get sufficiently drunk on Halloween this year.
That's clearly the moral of the story. Ferrero Rocher was not intending us to go this direction, but no, let's take it here.
And Ferrero, since you brought up the expensive Halloween candy, I'm not crazy, right? Like, it's way more expensive this year than any other year.
Absolutely. Like the box of like, like the mini bars, whether it's Kit Kats, whether it's the Smarties, the Mars, they're way more expensive than they used to be. It's like they want $24 for 150 little bars now. Didn't it used to be like $12.99 or something?
I remember when it was $8.99 or $7.99 on sale for the 50-pack.
Yeah, that's more reasonable.
Or the 100-pack would be like $12 or $13.99. Now they're charging over $20 for that.
Where's the deals? Where are they too? The sales aren't even good.
Well, you know what? The economy's filtering quickly right now, and we're seeing it in fast food. Just today, I got a note from Wendy's. Hey, come on in and get 2 breakfast combos for $9.99. They were charging $8.99 for 1 combo only a couple of months ago. So I think the fast food restaurants are getting real desperate, and that's soon going to fall into the rest of the economy. Keep in mind, they raised interest rates so people didn't have any money, and that would force the economy to cool and get rid of inflation. Well, they bankrupted us all. We're not shopping, and now prices are coming down.
I'm wondering if it's going to be like Halloween, like morning that you buy your candy, because maybe that's when it's going to be marked down earlier than usual. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to wait, though, because I'm not paying $25 a box. I get a decent amount of kids, surprisingly, still coming to my door. And I did real, like, actual chocolate bars.
You did?
The 1 year. Yeah, and now I'm
That's
not.
a big
that
flex.
person. So maybe I'll go to Costco, and it's only going to be like the first 50 kids. You know what I mean? After that, nope. Maybe 25 even. I don't know.
Look at
We'll
you
see.
doing a bar-style deal for the kids. First 25 kids
the
get a
young-
full-size chocolate bar.
Listen, the young, cute ones tend to come first. That's just the truth.
I don't blame you, and they deserve it too.
Yeah.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow with more After 9.
Bye-bye.
Dunkin' Donuts announced their new fall menu, which includes a Halloween Munchkins bucket.
Yeah.
50 Munchkins in a bucket. Take that, Ozempic.
In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, some are asking why no act that sings exclusively in Spanish has ever been included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. On the plus side, that means no act that sings exclusively in Spanish has ever been forced to visit Cleveland.
Burger King has unveiled its Halloween menu, while Arby's decided their regular menu is scary enough.
In order to control the rat population, rat birth control could soon roll out in New York City. Or, counterpoint, stop having sex with the rats.
Southwest Airlines has announced that it will do away with open seating and allow customers to book reserved seats, while passengers announced they're still going to jam their bodies into the gate 40 minutes before the door opens.